Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio, welcoming you to another edition of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org for more info, or you can email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have Norman Orr. We'll be discussing his fantastic book, Embracing Biological Humanism, Abandoning the Idea of God. Available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, pretty much wherever books are sold. But if you guys want to get everything that Norman has to offer, do yourself a favor and go directly to his personal site, embracingbiologicalhumanism.com. There, not only will you find more information on Norman himself, you'll find more information on the book, as well as find hyperlinks set up to take you to the Amazon page for purchasing. So one more time, that's embracingbiologicalhumanism.com. And I will say, Norman was brought to our network, People of Distinction, today by some of the best movers in the business. Author Reputation Press Publishing. So if you have a book that you'd like moved, move it through ARP. You can find them at authorreputationpress.com. And guys, listen, it is an absolute pleasure to have Norman here on the line. Right there in the subtitle for his book, you have an idea of the concept that we're going to be exploring today. Abandoning the idea of God. Now, that is a concept that I think is highly debated a lot of times, right? And we really start to get into the intricacies of it. It really is similar. Now, this is a very simplistic take, okay? And Norman is going to be able to articulate all the specifics and all the nuances. And of course, when you purchase the book, you'll be able to gather all of the information and really go below the surface. But for the sake of this introduction, in a very simplistic form, this book really goes after the age-old debate of evolution versus creation. And in Norman's eyes, he doesn't like the term evolution. He feels humanity has grown and developed and really emerged. So he will utilize that term instead of evolution. But again, it's a very similar debate, a very similar concept in which we're discussing, and how we as humans have an identity crisis. So it is an absolute pleasure to have Norman here on the line, because I'm looking forward to the education as well as all of you are, I am sure. So without further ado, let's bring him here with us. Norman, first and foremost, thank you so much for being a guest with us today on People of Distinction. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm okay, I think.
Fantastic. Well, listen, Norman, I know we have so much information to cover. So without further ado, before we jump into the book, let's hold off slightly. Start by telling our listening audience a little bit more about yourself, please.
Well, in the book itself, I have a postscript after I have given my discussion of the concepts that Benji has been talking about, that explains the journey that I took in being able to understand the concepts well enough to be able to write about them. I started that process early in my academic career when I took biology classes as a ministerial student. Most of the ministerial students didn't take biology classes, but I did, and the biology classes impressed me more than most of the other subjects that I dealt with in my academic career. I did graduate with a major in English and a minor in biology. I went to Vanderbilt Divinity School and got a Master of Divinity degree, served as a Methodist minister for 7 years, took a sabbatical to try to continue the study of how to bring together the concepts of science and religion, and then went to abandoned that after a while, and had a couple of other careers, 20 years with the Veterans Administration, 11 years teaching technical writing at Texas Tech University in Lubbock, where I live, and through all of that, gained enough experience and understanding of other fields of education to be able to bring together concepts from a wide range of academic areas that would make this story, I hope, make sense to someone else. It certainly makes sense to me, and I hope in the book I have explained it well enough that it may make sense to others as well.
Absolutely. You know, and listen, Norman, from talking to you on the pre-screening call, I mean, you articulated you are pulling from about 60 years worth of experience. So at the very least, we know that the information and the knowledge that you are forecasting to us, you're broadcasting to us, is coming from a very good place, right? And this is why it's such an honor to have you here in the network. And we know that we're going to be able to receive such a wonderful education. Now, Norman, without further ado, embracing biological humanism, abandoning the idea of God. Tell us a little bit about your book.
Well, it begins with the discussion of the concept of why God is an idea and not a real being. The basic premise of that is that the idea of God as generally understood in academic areas did not occur among humans until about 50,000 years ago. Archaeologists and anthropologists consider that the time when the idea of God originated. So all of the time, in the billions of years that life has existed on Earth prior to 50,000 years ago, life existed, and without the concept of God being there. So where did the idea of God come from? It came from the same source that most of our other things that we know come from. We think of something as a society. The concepts, if they have some credence, become generally accepted, and then the social pressures of education and so forth give authority to those ideas, and they maintain themselves, and they are taught from generation to generation to generation, so that we actually don't know anything except what we are taught. And as a result of that, then the idea that God helps you understand something or tells you something is not something that's always been acceptable, and it's so behind all of this idea that God is just an idea is that concept that's how humans come to know something, and that is described in the book as well.
Mm-hmm. Norman, talk to our listening audience. Let's go into the concept of inspiration. Now, of course, we know about your background and your experience that you have in this particular topic, in this particular matter. Now, why didn't that information solely stay with you? What compelled you to take it a step further, comprise the book, and put it out for the public to be able to partake in as well?
Well, I wanted to put it on paper and for other people to be able to read, because I believe that at almost in everybody at some time in their life wonders about whether there really is a God. And usually the idea goes away because they'll ask somebody that they know and trust, and that person will say, "Oh, sure, there is. You know, there is. You got this feeling that there is," and so forth. And it goes away, maybe, and then maybe not. So there are limits. I felt like it was a useful thing to know. It was very profound for me when I really came to understand how the idea of God developed, and be able to convey that to other people, I felt would be useful to other people who might be having that same kind of struggle.
Guys, again, here on the line with Norman Orr. We're discussing his fantastic book, Embracing Biological Humanism, Abandoning the Idea of God. Available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, pretty much wherever books are sold. But make sure you check out his personal website, embracingbiologicalhumanism.com, to gather all of the information that he has in store. Now, Norman, I'm curious. Next concept that I want to get into, really a popular thing that I've heard in discussion, but I don't really know much about it. And I know from the pre-screening call, I heard you quickly go into it and articulate it. What is social constructionism?
Social constructionism is a concept of how we as humans know. It is the generalities of it were scattered about in general concepts for a number of years, but it was not until 1967 when till someone actually put it in some kind of structure that would make it understandable generally. It has grown into a very extensive academic area of study, and it, like most other things, has reached levels of complexity in that are beyond even the understanding of most of us, even including me. But the basic idea is essentially very simple, that we conceive an idea as a society. An idea is conceived in society. It gains some general acceptance, and among people generally, and then becomes established authoritatively through academia or other authoritative sources, and becomes the truth, as it were. But that truth doesn't always continue. There's a long section in the book of ideas that existed for long periods of time and then abandoned, and then were abandoned by human society because new information became available that kept those ideas from making sense anymore. Like the Earth is the center of the universe is one example. There are a number of others that I would describe in the book. But few people, if any, believe that the Earth is the center of the universe anymore, simply because we've been able to see through telescopes and so forth, and it just doesn't seem to be that that's the way it is. Mm-hmm. So traditionally, throughout human history, we have held ideas that seem very workable and reasonable, and then abandoned those ideas when new information came along that was more useful to us. And I think we've reached the time in human society when abandoning the idea of God and embracing our biological heritage as humans will be more useful to us than continuing to hold on to an idea, God, that no longer is feasible.
I'm curious, what would you say was a highlight for you in writing this book? Or if not a highlight, maybe something that surprised you that you weren't expecting prior to embarking upon the journey?
Well, as I say, I'm 86 years old. I've spent 60 of those 86 years wrestling with all of these concepts. Mm-hmm. And the satisfying part of it was when I got to the point, and I described the how that happened in the book too. A few years back, I saw a print of a pipe painted by an artist whose name was Magritte, and underneath that pipe was a briar pipe, one of those S-shaped pipes, and underneath that pipe was in French, "This is not a pipe." And I thought I understood what he meant. This is not a pipe. It is something that we in human society call a pipe. And that was the key to my being able to understand the concept of that we only know what we are taught. I have that picture framed on my wall, and I also have a picture of a box of an actual pipe with the question, "Is this a pipe?" and a piece of PVC pipe in another box that says, "Is this a pipe?" So all those things are pipes, and we all call them pipes, and everybody recognizes them as pipes, but we do that because we are taught that they are. That's how we come to know that thing about pipes, and that's how we come to know anything that we know. That was the breaking point for my being able to get started writing.
Guys, there you have it. I mean, what more can be said? You know what is so amazing about all of this is we've barely scratched the surface of what this book entails. Guys, there is so much information. I could stay here on the line and talk to Norman for hours about this. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Okay, so you know what you have to do. If you want to get everything, if you want to get all the nuances, you want to get all of the information, you really want to understand why he is advocating for abandoning the idea of God, you got to head on over to Amazon. You got to go to Barnes & Noble, go wherever books are sold, and make sure You're also checking out his personal website, embracingbiologicalhumanism.com, and pick up your copy of Embracing Biological Humanism, Abandoning the Idea of God by Norman Orr. You surely will not be disappointed. At the end of the day, what we're advocating for is really just education, right? Educating yourself. I'm not saying that believing in God is wrong. I'm not saying that believing in God is correct. What I am saying, though, is let's examine all of the parameters. Let's understand. Let's pull in all of the information. And then we can make a knowledgeable decision moving forward. Let's grow, let's develop, let's educate ourselves. And it starts with this fantastic book, Embracing Biological Humanism by Norman Orr. Norman, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you once again for being a guest with us today on People of Distinction.
Thank you for having me.